member of Am Yisrael is a world. A world in of himself, of herself. We're truly a world. We have so much potential, so much goodness. Correct? What we have to do is tap on and use it and go forward and smile. Got a nice haircut, right? That's what we have to do. So therefore, we're not allowed to count. So in the book of Shemot, some of you remember, when there was a counting, how did we count? Each person gave a half shekel, and we counted the half shekels, the machatzit hashekel, right? Instead.
It was only men aged like 20 to 60.
Let's see. Well, we're going to see the regulations. It's very clear here in Pasuk Gimel that we're counting the families, and everyone's family goes according to his tribal mother or father. Pasuk Bet. Suit Rosh Koladat b'nei Yisrael mishpachotam leveit avotam. Leveit avotam. Do you see those key words? The father's house. In other words, if you married, okay, your mom is from the tribe of Judah, and you married out. You married a woman from the tribe of your mother comes from the tribe of Benjamin, and your father's from Yehuda. You go by your father's tribe. That's leveit avotam. But who are the guidelines to be counted? You're right. Pasuk Gimel, mi ben 20 shana v'mala, 20 years up. Kol yotzei tzava b'Yisrael. Everyone has the ability to be in the army of Israel. Tifkedu otam nitzavotam. Who's going to help you, Moshe Rabbeinu? Atavi Aaron. I'll go one more pasuk before we get to this famous Rashi. V'yitchem you, with you. Who will be alongside you to help you doing the counting? You know, it's a pretty heavy job. You just can't do it. Ish lamata. Which word is repeated? Ish. And our question is, why? And the answer is, Ish lamata. A man from the tribe. Mata is not a staff. Mata is a tribe. It's a language to indicate what? One man from each tribe. Ish.
Two.
Respectively. Okay? Respectively. Ish lamata. One man from each tribe. That's how the Torah speaks. To indicate one man from each tribe. Ish rosh leveit avotavu. And he'll be a leader from his father's house. So, helping Moshe Rabbeinu in accounting are the following individuals. Number one, Aaron, and 12 leaders of the tribes. A leader from each tribe. And they will apparently help in their respective tribes. That's the beginning and understanding of what we're learning here. Now let's get to the why. Why is God commanded? So Rashi is a great educator, all you know that. And he's a collector. And Rashi brings us the following idea, a midrashic idea. Let's read it. Mitoch chibatan, everyone's finger is in Rashi in the Hebrew. The first Rashi, and I'll ask you what's special about the first Rashi. Mitoch chibatam, because of the affection, lifanav, in front of God, moneotam kol sha'ah. God is counting them often. Kol sha'ah, literally, every hour. You see the guy sitting next to me? He has this lovely stamp collection. I don't know if you know. It's a lovely stamp collection. I see him opening up the album, at least once every 2 weeks for the course of a year. He just keeps on opening up. Why does he keep on opening up his stamp collection album? Why? Answer. He loves it. It's not a hard answer. What you're connected to, you often count. Okay? Thank God I have one wife. I don't have to count how many wives I have. One is enough. She's best. She's righteous. She's Hasidic. She's the best. One wife. I don't have to count wives. But if you have a stamp collection, you have a coin collection, you have a book collection, you're often looking at it, glazing your eyes at it. So too here. Who is in love with who? Hashem loves his nation of Israel. How do we know? Because he's counting them several times. Let's see. Kishi Yatsumi Mitzrayim Manauta. When we were taken out of Egypt, God counted us. There you can see at the end of Shemot Yud Bet. Shemot chapter 12, the Exodus of Egypt, verse 37. Uchshinaflu be'egel, when we fell at the Egel, look at me. What is the calendar date? of the sin of the golden calf?
17.
Thank you. The 17th of Tammuz. So when we fell at the sin of the Egel, manautam leidam minyan hanotorim. Follow the Rashi. God, as if wanted to know how many left over after those that fell in the sin and were killed by the mighty unit that joined Moshe Rabbeinu from the tribe of Levi, right? Third, kishabala hashrot shchinato aleim, when God is coming to bring His Shekhinah, third incident, God's divine presence, manautam, He counted them. Bechad b'Nisan ukam hamishkan, uvechad b'Iyar manautam. Gentlemen, this book of Chumash Bamidbar, according to this explanation of Rashi, listen carefully to my question, please, is a continuation of which Chumash? I repeat. The beginning of Chumash Bamidbar, according to this last phrase of Rashi, is a direct continuation of which Chumash? Why is it a direct continuation of the book of Shemot? Why? What happened at the end of Chumash Shemot? What happened? The divine presence appeared in the form of fire, cloud. Where did it appear? Where did it appear? In the manufacturing after the work of our nation that built the Mishkan, the tabernacle, the miniature holy temple. That's how Chumash Shemot. Remember, you were the weatherman. You were giving a weather report. What is the weather report in front of the Mishkan? Who knows which problem? It's stormy. I don't know if it's stormy. It's cloudy. And what other great event? What couldn't what is reported at the end of the Chumash Shemot? There's smoke there, and who cannot go in? Moshe. Why can he not go in? There's a divine cloud. Right? I don't know if any of you are pilots, but when you see clouds, it's not the easiest thing to fly through. But Moshe's not a pilot now. He can't go in. Right? That's how Chumash Shemot ends. Remind me, what calendar date does Chumash Shemot end with? The 1st of Nisan. That was the Chanukata Mishkan, the inauguration of the Mishkan. Look at me. If the end of Shemot is the 1st of Nisan, our calendar date here is the 1st of Iyar. What's the gap in between?
30.
30 days, 1 month. Are you with me? We must put things right now into proper perspective. Chumash Bamidbar is a direct continuation of the book of Shemot. There's only a gap of 1 month. Do you see what I'm trying to explain? A gap of 1 month. Therefore, this Chumash is unique to continue to explain how God's presence, the Shekhinah, is amongst the nation of Israel. How are we going to guard that presence? How are we going to guard the Mishkan? Who are the chief people guarding, working in the Mishkan? From which tribe? Levi, thank you. We're going to see a unique, separate counting for the tribe of Levi outside the 603,550 members of Am Yisrael, of the 12 tribes, from the age of 20 and up, and only men. But right now, Rashi is telling us, and Rashi is an educator. Rashi says, do you know why God is counting the nation of Israel several times? To show His love. His love. In light of the divine presence, that's a magnificent new event. A month later, our Torah is telling us the time of this counting. 1 month after the Hashrat HaShekhinah. Okay? And we're not talking about, according to this Rashi, there is not a benefit here, a benefit factor. There's no specific we're not beneficiaries of this counting. Rather, God is showing us how much He loves us. One point, I heard a shiur, also from my father, but others as well. It's a known fact. If any of you research the first Rashi of each of the 5 Chumashim, if you research and study the first 5, the first one in each Chumash, you're going to notice a common theme. Each of them, according to Rashi, is talking about God's love to the nation of Israel. Isn't that amazing? That's, in Rashi's eyes, what's a major educational point to give over to us as students of the Torah. You'll look at it, I don't have time right now to show it to you. You can learn an entire shiur about that, obviously. But you'll notice the opening Rashi in each of the 5 Chumashim, demonstrating Hashem's love to us. Okay. I want everyone, after learning this point here about the Mishkan, God's presence, and by the way, in between Shmot and Bamidbar, we learned and just completed Chumash Vayikra, which you all know is nicknamed Torat Kohanim. It's the Torah of the Kohanim, the Leviim, the tribe of Levi. Okay? And we learned there all the laws of Korbanot, how to serve God in the Mishkan, many laws that are related to the Oel Moed. Here too, God's speech to Moshe Rabbeinu is in which place? The Ohel Moed. But it's no longer called Har Sinai. Do you remember the end of Chumash Vayikra, Parshat Bahar, the laws of Shemitah? Quote, Vaydaber Hashem el Moshe, where? Behar Sinai Lemor. We're no longer Har Sinai. The area of this prophecy is Midbar Sinai. Do you understand that? Why? Because once the Mishkan was established, okay, on the first of the second year, we're no longer talking about Har Sinai, which is related to the giving of the Torah. We're now relating to the Midbar. And therefore this book is called Midbar. The nation is on the derech. The nation is on its road. Now, remind me everyone, when did we arrive to Midvarsinai? Hello? On your page, question number 3. When did we arrive to Midvarsinai? The first of Sivan, the first of the 3rd month. How much time has transpired since our arrival to the Sinai mountain and until now? Again, we arrived there on the 1st of the 3rd month. Right now, we're the 1st of the 2nd month. How much time has transpired?
11 months.
What?
11.
I didn't hear you. What did you say?
11 months.
11 months. 11 months has transpired since we arrived at Mount Sinai until here. Okay? Everyone open up. Did I give you this question? Okay, everyone turn to Parshat Baalotcha. Turn to Parshat Baalotcha. In chapter 9, no, later after 9. Turn to Parshat Baalotcha, please. Thank you. Chapter 10, verse 11. Chapter 10, verse 11. Do you all see it? In Parshat Baalotcha, okay? That'll be the Shabbat after Chag Shavuot, God willing. We'll learn about the lighting of the menorah. We'll learn about Pesach Sheni. We'll learn about the jobs of the tribe of Levi. And now we have a significant command from God to Moshe Rabbeinu. Do you see it? Chapter 10, verse 11, I'm reading. Does anyone not have it? Chapter 10, verse 11. You have it? Vayi, and it was. B'shana Hashinit, second year, b'chodesh Hashini, second month, b'esrim b'chodesh, the 20th. Again, the date, the calendar date here is the 20th of?
ER.
Is it the 20th Nisan or ER? ER. What date? The 20th. What happens for the first time? Na'alaha enan, the cloud went up, me'al mishkan edut. I'm adding for your knowledge, many of you don't, you know it yourselves anyway. For the first time, the cloud that's been hovering over us ever since Sinai, or even before, when it was motioning us from the Red Sea splitting to Mount Sinai, now goes up. Earlier, the Torah gives us the communication signals. What does it mean that the cloud goes up? What are we supposed to do when the cloud goes up? When the cloud comes down, what are we supposed to do? We call communication smoke signals. When the cloud goes up, what do we learn? What must we do?
Go.
We pack up. We pack up and begin traveling. Here is the first time that Am Yisrael will be traveling ever since it parked on Rosh Chodesh Sivan. Now make a simple arithmetic equation. If we're going to be moving for the first time on the 20th of the second month rather, how long de facto where will we be parked at Midvarsinai? How long are we parked there at Midvarsinai? Total time. We arrived on the first of the third month. So how long are we there now? If we're traveling on the 20th of the second month?
Minus 10 days.
1 year less?
Minus 10 days.
Less 10 days. Is that correct? 1 year less 10 days. Okay? All of you, right now, we're in the Midbar. We've been hanging out there for almost a year. In 20 days from now, beginning of Chumash Bamidbar, 20 days from now, we're going to be moving after camping out, a long camping. You with me? Okay, I'm asking only the people in the second row. Michael, Moshe Yitzchak. Where are we going? Where are we going? Only the people in this row. Where are we traveling to? You don't know. Anyone have an answer over there? What? Where are we going? I didn't ask which direction. Where are we going? No. Where are we going? To Minnesota? No, I didn't hear Minnesota. To Eretz Yisrael. Is that not obvious? It's of course we're going to Eretz Yisrael. Are we okay? Does anyone disagree? It's obvious we're all traveling to Eretz Yisrael. We're camping out 2 years, a year, 11 months, and 20 days. We're now going into Eretz Yisrael. Would you please give us the weather report in Eretz Yisrael? Who's living there? And how are they to us, the Canaanites? They're not so friendly. Are they going to be, like this special committee from the UN offering us chocolate bars when we come in?
Well, that one woman is.
Rachava.
That woman called Rachav. What's her name?
Rachav.
What's the great woman's name that's going to eventually convert? Rachava Zona. Thank you. So other than she and her family, gentlemen, we're about to face wars. Killing people. Listening to God's commandment. So let me ask you something. God commands Moshe now, 20 days before we start getting off, to count the nation. Can you come up with another idea other than God's love to Am Yisrael? Why Hashem commands to count the nation? Can you come up with an idea? You have an idea?
To understand the numbers.
What do you have an idea? You didn't hear what he said, did you? I'm happy. What did you want to say?
Battle strategy.
Battle strategy. And you? What? A military sense. Then you?
We have a fight, we see how many people fell, we can compare.
How many fell from then? How many fell from us? That's why we're counting.
How many are left?
From who?
From us, like we see.
In other words, you're saying we're going to fall in the war. Okay, it sounds like a very bidiyavad after the fact answer. I want to know lechatchila. Why is God? I want to use the answers that the gentlemen are using, and that is in the Rashbam, the grandson of Rashi. Ramban Nachmanides say the following. When you go out to war, you have to know how many soldiers you are. You have to logistically, right, put companies, battalions, platoons, right? All these words that you know that I don't know in English, right? You got to know how to organize yourself. We're getting ready for what's called Milchemet Mitzvah, a war of mitzvah. A war of mitzvah. It happens to be that our next shiur is related to this. We're going to be studying Yoshua chapter 5. We'll talk, I'll elaborate on that point, God willing, in 20 minutes from now, whatever. But right now, we have to get organized. Milchemet Mitzvah. We've been in the desert for how long? No. I'm happy he said that mistake. He's just testing to see if I'm awake. Want to do it again?
Days.
We've been in the desert now for how long? How long are we in the desert already? Look, and this is
No.
that's the reason why I did this.
Right.
How long have we been in the desert? That's why we did this exercise. What?
No.
Are we 1 month in the desert
13
now?
months and 20 days. It's 13 months and 20 days.
Right now, ever since we left Egypt, to the beginning of the Chumash. How long have we been out here? 11 months. No.
It's 14 months and 5 days.
We're out of. We remember we left Mitzrayim on the 15th of Nisan. An entire year passed, 15 days less. We inaugurated the Mishkan, and now we're really out of Egypt. 1 year and 2 weeks and 15 days. Put things into perspective, right? 1 year and 2 weeks. We got out Tetvav ben Nisan, the 15th of Nisan. This is Rosh Chodesh Iyar. It's 1 year and 2 weeks and 15 days or so. Yes? We're now on the way to go. Now, who will be counted? It says literally, Kol Yotzei Tzava. What does the term mean, Kol Yotzei Tzava? The commentators explain, more or less, those that are enabled, those that are capable to do the war. Now, I don't know if you know about our nation here in Israel. You have all sorts of people at the age of 18, 19, and 20. You have those that can only be potato peelers. You have those that can work in computers. You have those that can work in administration. You have those to hand out uniforms. You have those that can shoot a cannon. You have others that can shoot missiles. You have others that can support the fighters. You have others that are fighters. You have others that are the elite fighters. Do you understand what I'm saying? Do you think everyone that goes for an army test, he's going to be a fighter? Yes or no? Do you know what happened? Explains the Orach Chaim HaKadosh. The great Orach Chaim HaKadosh. Everyone
This is super weird.
was able or had the physical ability to be mobilized, to be enlisted in the army of God. This is not a Chabad commercial. The army of God right now is what Hashem is commanding right now. Get an army. And after the great counting, where the 12 tribes leaders have, you all turn to the sum total. The end of chapter 1, everyone turn to, please. Eila Pekudim, verse 44. Eila Pekudim, verse 44. After the public leaders, each and every respective tribe is helping out. For instance, a famous name, we'll just point out to one. Which tribal leader of Yehuda is distinguished to be helping out in the counting? Did you see his name?
Nachshon.
What's his name?
Nachshon.
Nachshon, the son of Aminadav. The Midrash tells us, amongst other things, what is he famous for? Nachshon ben Aminadav, which later causes in modern day Hebrew to be a Nachshonist.
Was the one who stepped into the Red Sea.
He's the one that stepped in the Red Sea up to his nose. The waters were still there. He didn't get, some swimming lessons from, what's that Jewish swimmer, Mark Spitz, that was in the Munich Olympics in 1980. Okay? He didn't have a lesson in swimming, did he? And then the sea split. But he was the first to go in, to dive in, to jump in. From that great incident, we call anyone that's a pioneer, anyone that's doing a first, we call him a nachshonist. He goes in the leadership qualities of Nachshon, the son of Aminadab. Okay, the sum total of our nation from the age of 20, which shows you, what does the Mishnah say in Pirkei Avot? That when you get to the age of 20, what ability do you have? What? No, it doesn't say that in the Mishnah. What? No. Who remembers the Mishnah Pirkei Avot? Ben Chamesh LaMikra. When you're 5 years old, you can study the Chumash, and then Mishnah, then Gemara, and then it says Ben Esrim Lirdof, to pursue. When you're 20 years old, you're fast, like a cat. You can open up pursuit of the enemy. Ben Esrim Lirdof. One more time. 20 years old, you have the ability to pursue. So that's why maybe God is saying, count those that are 20 years of age. Anyway, the sum total you all see. The sum total you all see. Hello? How much are they? 600,000, 3,603, However, this does not include who? The Leviim. What's the matter? Discrimination? Racism? We don't like our Leviim. What's going on? Who knows why Levi is not counted? We're counting everyone by maybe a half shekel, or they're giving a piece of paper. The different ideas, how a piece of clay. But why is Levi not counted? Turn to verses 48, 49. There God says to Moshe Rabbeinu, Vaydaber Adonai El Moshe Lemor, Ach. I know Ach can mean brother, but this Ach is spelled with which letter? Kaf Sofit, which therefore means but, however. Ach, however. Et Matei Levi, look inside. The tribe of Levi, Lo Tifkot. V'et Rosham, their heads, Lo Tisa, do not count. B'toch B'nei Yisrael. Don't count them. Amongst Am Yisrael. And comes Rashi, in the famous words of the Midrash Haggadah. And here you see, gentlemen, the usage of a key word. Rashi says, Kedayu ligayon shel melech. Ligayon. What appears later on in Latin, legion, and then in English, legion. Kedayu ligayon shel melech liot nimna levado. The tribe of Levi is considered whose legion? Hashem's legion. Why is Levi Hashem's legion? They did not partake in the sin of Chet HaEgel. Therefore, they became more distinguished, more uplifted, more spiritually strong. God says, you're my legion. What does he mean by legion? What? They will have a unique position working in the Mishkan, serving God, His holy work. Therefore, what do they deserve? To be counted
as the kings
separately. And notice, from which age are they counted? Keep on reading. Do you see where the Torah talks about in chapter 2? Is it chapter 2? No, it's chapter, here it is. Chapter 3, verse 14 and 15. Chapter 3, verse 14 and 15. Tribe of Levi will be counted from which age?
for 1 month.
Pekodet b'nei Levi levetovotam lemishpechotam kol zachar, every male, mi ben chodesh v'mala tifkadei. Mi ben chodesh. 1 month old. Why? It's obvious that they're not going where?
To war.
To war. Why? Because they're occupied doing a holy job. And the Torah in this parsha indicates their various roles and functions. If it's guarding the Mishkan, if it's folding it up, carrying it, and so on and so forth. But why count them from the age of 30 days? Yes? What do you know?
Because that's when the mother comes to make, they're alive. The redeeming of the firstborn.
Very nice. We have a mitzvah called Pidyon Haben. Why, in the book of Shemot, does the Torah command the mitzvah of redeeming, meaning just should be clear to all of us. Pidyon, redeeming, means to transfer out the Kedusha so that it can be free of that holiness. Each and every firstborn member of Israel has a unique holiness hovering over him. What holiness does he have?
He belongs to Hashem.
He belongs to God. Who are God's people here in this world? I mean, specifically, the Kohanim. The highest level of manifestation of holiness, right? Of godliness is through his unique army, which is the tribe of Levi, what forks out the two, Kohanim and Leviim. Who could have been killed on that night of the 15th?
All the firstborn.
All the firstborn. But God, Pasach. What does Pasach mean?
Jumped over.
Lifsoach means to skip over, to pass over. Or, as Unkula says, to show love. By doing so, each and every Bechor has a unique holiness that night. Holiness of godliness. Each father and mother have that mitzvah of taking out that holiness. But from which day? 30 days, it says, 1 month old. Why? Halachically, the Talmud explains that any baby until the age of 30 days, we have a doubt about will he or not live. Will he live or not live? The terminology the Gemara uses is called a nefel. If a baby does die, God forbid, within the first 30 days, he's considered a nefel from the word lipo, which means to fall.
Fallen ones.
Once 30 days pass, he's considered that he has chayim, life. Then it's incumbent on the parents to do the mitzvah called Pidyon HaBechor. Therefore, for the counting of the legion of God, the tribe of Levi, God commands their mifkad, their counting, only from the age of 30 days. Then they're considered alive, and they're part of the legion that in the future will be serving God and working for God. We're going to stop here for today's shur, take a short break. We're going to learn Sefer Yoshua, Perek. What? Perek Chamesh. Shur was okay? The shur was okay? Isn't the Torah great? I'm telling you. I got to get more of this, guys. Daniel is the question.
I don't understand. So if the child dies before 30 days...
God forbid.
God forbid. So
There's not even going to be mourning on the child.
So I don't understand. He's falling from where to where?
Meaning he never had life. He was deemed to be falling. He died of Crib's death, of this or that, we don't know. And even halachically, as far as the laws of Avelut, saying Kaddish, and these things will not appear only after 30 days. And the Kaddish also, yeah. Within the Brit Milah doesn't consider them life. What considers life is living 30 days. Apparently, statistically, God knows that there's still a lot of danger in any newborn infant. He's so sensitive, so soft, so tender that, I can give you an example. Our firstborn, our daughter, I think after 4 or 5 days, she had an eye infection. And we were allowed to desecrate the Shabbat, had we needed, to get to a doctor so that he can prescribe antibiotics or something of that nature for the newborn infant. Why? Because and this also has a repercussion on the laws of Shabbat regarding an infant until 30 days. That you're allowed to be, it could be a din of cholah, sheyesh po sakana, it could be. That, and therefore you might be allowed to be michalel the Shabbat. Then he still has the kiddusha on him. And he's like, hey, but he belongs to the Kohanim. He belongs to the Kohanim, yes. If we can bring Tanachim and Sefer Yoshua, I'm sorry. excellent question. According to the general rules of the Sefer HaKlum that deals with these types of questions, since we don't know when it will be concluded, it's like an ongoing mitzvah. Our sages did not systematically enact lessons for those type of mitzvot, but we don't know when the conclusion of the mitzvah is. I think this is an example of a mitzvah that we don't know when the conclusion. In fact, we learned that we should know that it will take 7 years to go to war. So you can't make a blessing for a mitzvah that's so continuous of a long time. Good question. Good question. I saw commentary says, count them and don't count the Erev Rav. Who are the only ones that join us, the Erev Rav, that we should look to mix multitude without consulting God. So I think I saw they were doing that count. How many they were, I don't know either. Yes,
So the child under 30 days still have an issue.
as a neshama, but it's not considered complete. It's not considered complete. We bury it.
I mean, like, no one above.
You never had life here that it needs all. It's getting to the red hat. Not proper.
I want to talk to you about two things when you get a chance.
So right after the second shiur?
tell me about it. It doesn't affect me.
We have Tanachim. Are there Tanachim? We have Tanachim. Everyone has a Tanakh? Huh? Everyone has a Tanakh? Everyone has a Tanakh. Shalom Aleichem. What's your name? Huh? Osher. Beautiful name. And last name? Zayalov. Nice to meet you. Menachem Listman. Are you a KGB agent for Russia or something like that? Just want to make sure before I say something. Okay. Let's open up to Perek K of Sefer Yoshua. I don't believe you're going to be able to hear me from there. I don't know where else you can hear me. There's no one sitting here. There is an empty place over here, by the way, if you want. I'm sorry, I made a mistake.
This one was talking about.
Okay.
Dan Deep. Remember that?
Dan Gable.
I don't know if you've heard of him.
I remember Dan Gable.
Okay.
But he seems American.
Gentlemen, welcome to our shiur, Sefer Yoshua, Perek K, chapter 5. Let's begin reading. I'm going to be reading the first 4 or 5 verses, and then we will continue. ויהי כשמוע כל מלכי המורי אשר בעבר הירדן ימה וכל מלכי הכנעני אשר על הים את אשר הוביש אדוני את מי הירדן מפני בני ישראל עד עוברנו וימס עד עוברם וימס לבבם ולא היה בם עוד רוח מפני בני ישראל. Right, that's the weather report. As we learned from that great woman called Rachav in the city of Yericho, the 7 Canaanite nations are well aware what's happened to this unique nation over the course of the last 40 years. Supernatural, metaphysical miracles have happened to them, however you want to classify it. And right now they know that they're en route into the country. And their hearts are melting. Namely, they're in a great state of fear. Pasuk Bet. Ba'itahi. We'll have to ask, why does the Tanakh have to say Ba'itahi? Ba'itahi amar Adonai Yoshua asei lecha charvot tzurim v'shuv mol et bnei Yisrael shenit. A lot of questions you may ask. Asei lecha? The command is only to Yoshua? For yourself? Charvot? Often we treat the translation of charvot as the plural of the word. Cherev. Cherev is a sword. A sword.
Two-sided.
Now, I don't know if you've received accreditation from the National Organization of Circumcisions here in Eretz Yisrael, and maybe some of you have witnessed several Brit Milah here, and no Moel ever walks in with a sword. So that's an obvious question. We're going to be asking what's going on here. Next, Vishuv, again. Why the word again? If you had a Brit Milah, you had it, you don't need it again. Why the word Vishuv? Pasuk Gimel. Vayaslo Yoshua Charvot Tzurim. No, he doesn't play games. God commands. He manufactures these swords. Vayamol et bnei Yisrael el Givat Oralot. A unique name to call a place. The hill of all the Orla. Literally, we're talking about hundreds and hundreds of thousands of the men of Israel are now undergoing their Milah circumcision. And here it accumulates to the extent that it stands out, the pile stands out, that it's called a Giva, a hilltop. Interesting. Apparently it's so significant that it requires a name. And the question will be, why is it so significant? Why is it Ba'etahi at that time? Furthermore, Pasuk Dalet, V'zeh davar asher mal Yoshua kol ha'am. Don't be mistaken. When it says that Yoshua circumcised the entire nation, it could be that Yoshua Like if you remember his first commandment, he delegated responsibilities to the shotrim, to the officers. Go around the nation, get them ready. And how many days we're crossing? 3 days. We're going to be crossing the Yarden, the Jordan River. Could very well be here. He delegated responsibilities for those that are capable of doing milah circumcision. But since it's under the authority, the responsibility of Yoshua, it's considered that who did it? Yoshua. That's how we can explain that pasuk. Let's read it again. Verse 4. V'zad davar shemal Yoshua kol ha'am hayotzei miMitzrayim hascharim kol anshei hamilchama metu bamidbar baderech b'tzeitam miMitzrayim. What happened in the desert? Right. Why is that important? We're going to see in a moment. Pasuk 5. Ki mulim ayu kol ha'am hayotzim. The ones that left Mitzrayim were mulim. Okay? Past. Passive. Mulim. Were circumcised. Mulim. V'chol ha'am hayilodim bamidbar baderech b'tzeitam miMitzrayim lo malu. Okay? Gemara Masechet Yevamot and other places discusses this topic. Why was it so that our nation, our new infants, our new born babies in the desert did not get a Brit Milah? Aren't we commanded? I'll share with you shortly 2 answers which will explain on the outside, not on the inside, why there was no Milah. Number 1, what's our communication system in the desert when we're traveling? The clouds. When the cloud of glory rises, we take all our pekalach, Samsonite luggage, we pack up, and we travel. Yes or no? Excuse me. Wait, he just circumcised his son. Yesterday. Time out. But what does God say? No time out. But he just did a Brit Milah yesterday. He's very smart. He found out that when he's circumcised, they still traveled. You know what he doesn't do? He doesn't circumcise his children that are born now. Why?
Gotta travel.
What does he not know?
When they're leaving.
He doesn't know when the cloud's going to go up. And if you ask your doctor, hey, doctor, I have a medical question to ask you. Can I do Brit Milah and travel the next day, or the 2 days, or 3 days afterwards, or 4 or 5 days afterwards? What will your medical doctor tell you? No. He's such a sensitive, tender baby. You don't travel with a little one like this or that, right? So people did not do where? In the desert. For how long? 40 years. In addition, the Talmud says, Lo haya ruach tzfonit. There was a certain northerly wind that assisted in the process of healing. That northerly wind, which I don't know what it is or how to explain it, did not exist. Those are the 2 reasons that the Talmud explains why we did not do Brit Milah. Therefore, the existing situation, we just crossed the Jordan. We're about to park in our first area, and we get a command from the prophet of the generation, or command from God to the prophet, who happens to be the chief of staff, the pseudo-king, Yoshua ben Nun, and it is, make swords, sharp swords, which we asked, what's going on here? Isn't it enough to say, provide a knife for Milah? I mean, Yoshua, you never have to tell Yoshua to do that. He hung around Moshe Rabbeinu for 40, in the first year, whatever. He knows how they perform it. So therefore, 40 years, we didn't do Brit Milah. However, prior to departing Mitzrayim, what was done? Not in the Chumash, but only in Chazal. We took a mixture of 2 bloods, as Yechezkel the prophet says. And the statement that the prophet Yecheskel says even appears in the wording of a paragraph that we recite at the Brit Milah, and I'm quoting, Bidamayich chayi. Can you repeat those two words? Bidamayich chayi. Little translation. In your blood, in your bloods rather, thank you, damayich, plural, you're going to live. Which bloods? Chazal explained the blood of the Milah and the blood of the Paschal Lamb. Remember, we were in the schmearing business. You know what a schmearing business is? You know what the schmear means? I'm sure you know what the schmear means. It's a Yiddish or German word, right? It's not in Brazilian, is it? To schmear is to take something and brush it on the doorpost. That's to schmear, okay? We took the blood of the Korban Pesach, mixed it together with the blood of. Everyone had a Brit Milah to eat that night lamb chops. You know, remember we had a nice broiled lamb chops that night? Why were we eating lamb chops broiled? The Korban Pesach can only be tzli esh, broiled on the fire. So everyone that left had a Brit Milah. Gentlemen, I want to share with you several ideas. One that I learned from Rav Yaakov Ariel. Rav Yaakov Ariel? No, not Rav Yisrael, not Rav Yaakov. One of the great Rav Ariel brothers is a great Tanakh teacher in the Golan, and another from Eli Rav Kashtiel. He asks, understandingly, was enough to tell Yoshua, circumcise them. Why require the making of a sword? Just say circumcise Yoshua, will find the solution. Take a sharp rock, sharp knife. You know, Yoshua wasn't born yesterday. He knows how to get along. Yes? Gentlemen, some of you who've learned Sefer Yoshua before knows that we're about to embark in a very bloody situation. We're about to go out to perform the mitzvah of war, Milchemet Mitzvah, like we mentioned last year. And we're going to be killing men, women, and children. Not by the hundreds and not by the thousands, but the numbers will even be greater. The world may look at us and say, what is this tevach? What is this slaughtering going on here? What right do we have to raise a sword and cut off the heads, kill Canaanite men, women, and children? What right do we have? How do we justify ourselves? Furthermore, do you remember when we're living in this country for more than 400 years and we have a first preliminary king called Shaul, King Saul, from the tribe of, and not the tribe of Yehuda? If you hop, skip, and jump, go down from Beit Lechem, a major city of the tribe of Yehuda, and you go down to the valley, not far from Beit Shemesh, Emek HaElah, the Elah Valley. There are arch enemies that for hundreds of years have been a thorn to our necks and thorns in our eyes. The entity called the Plishtim that have come from the Crete Islands and have settled in southwest Israel ever since Avram Avinu has been here. And they've been a thorn in our eyes, and no one is able to take them away. They come inland from Ashkelon, Ashdod, the Gaza Strip area, and they've arrived to the low Judean hills next to Beit Shemesh called the Elah Valley. And there they decide, let's economize. Why should your army fight our army? Why don't we do like they do in basketball, one-on-one? One-on-one. In this corner, 7 foot tall, weighing 290 pounds, with all the armory, this monster that's called Goliath. Wow, wow, wow. He can be your center for any team, for any time. And no one is answering the call of the king. To the extent that the king is willing to offer what prize? His daughter. Called Michal. Very good. Why you're studying Tanakh. I'm proud of you. Keep it up. Michal in marriage. And no one's waiting. One day goes, 2 days pass, no one's going out. They see this guy, everyone's is in a state of trepidation, everyone's in fear. Abba in Beit Lechem Hills called Yishai, the father of 7 kids. 6 of them apparently have been mobilized to the war. The young one, the little guy, called David. Abba says, come here. I know you're watching over the sheep. Look, I got to send a care package to your brothers. I want to see how they're doing. This is before telecommunications, right? He just can't lift up a phone and find something. Even Morse code was not yet right. Even Morse code was not invented yet. He goes over. This young kid arrives. He sees the army of the Jewish people, of Am Yisrael, and he says, what's going on? And they tell him that this giant is coming out and cursing, blaspheming the army of God. And Shaul, the king, is offering a reward. And he says, what? This Arel, this foreskin, it's a curse word. The Jewish people use a curse word, Arel. This guy that doesn't have a circumcision, he's an Arel. It's like, it's like a 3-letter curse word. That's the top of your curse word. He's cursing the army of God, and the king is offering for reward.
A bride?
His daughter? Who needs reward? It's a mitzvah to go out and wipe this guy out. And David volunteers. And they look at David. He's this little punk. He's probably not been to any war whatsoever. And he's ready to go out. And then David shares in prophecy with us that he's had some interesting encounters, like a lion and a big bear, not teddy bear, a big bear. He's been attacked as a shepherd several times, and God has inspired in him the tactics, the abilities to overcome something that's sized extra large, like a lion and like a bear. And therefore I can do it. And he does it. And later on, to go to war, when Shaul's having a hard time with David, Shaul says, I'm going to test you. No, he doesn't ask him, let me hear 100 Mishnayot by heart, or 100 pages of Gemara by heart.
100 foreskins.
I want you to collect for me 100 foreskins. What? That means wiping them out and cutting them off. And you know what? He literally brings a tip. He doesn't bring 100. He brings 200. He kills 200 plishtim and collects 200 orlot. What's going on? Why do we see in the Tanakh this matter in relationship to war? So Rav Kashtiel says a very interesting idea that I want to share with you. We asked the question 10 minutes ago, in what right, in what justification can we go out to kill Canaanite women, children, and men in this war of mitzvah? The answer is, when you're going to make and prepare the instrument for the circumcision, prepare a cherev, a sword. When you, in your devotion to God, use that sword for yourself, you spill blood for yourself, you do brit milah on yourself, you show what is mesirut nefesh, the giving up of blood, your soul. The soul is the blood, remember? Ki adamu hanefesh. Remember reading that in the Chumash, in Genesis? When you do that and show that you're spilling blood first of yourself, you're making yourself holy to God, then you're ready to go to the enemy and spill their blood. First, use the cherev, the sword, to spill your own blood, to do brit. A brit is a covenant. A covenant is submitting ourselves to the divine words, humbling ourselves to what Hashem wants of ourselves. To really be a servant of God, we must submit our intellect, our heart, our soul to the word of Hashem, to the understanding of Chazal, to the exact word as the Shulchan Aruch writes it. That is being devoted to God. If we want to be devoted to God, we first have to do what's most unusual, unnatural, hurting ourselves. Do you know that there is a Gemara Sugya? Should we or not recite the Shechianu at a Brit Milah? What's the question? Why is there a question at all? What? Why is there argument that we should not recite even the blessing of Shechianu at a Brit Milah? Does anyone know? You learn it? Tsar Diyanuka, the Gemara says. The baby is in anguish. The baby is in pain. In Europe, I don't know where, Norway, Sweden, other countries, they want to ban. Are you aware of what's going on? There's legislation in many countries. In Europe, I don't remember which ones, but they want to ban Brit Milah in certain European countries, that Jews shouldn't do it. We understand their logic. Who gave you the right? To anguish, to pain? To cause damage to your own child, your own baby? That's what the Goyim are talking about. We understand that. But we have a covenant with God that the milah, the circumcision, is such a holy mitzvah that already on day 8, after 7 days of life, on day number 8, where 8 represents the metaphysical, the above nature of 7 countings. If you go to Brazil or Peru or America or Oklahoma and ask, when does a Jew do a Brit Milah? Everyone will say after 1 week. 1 week? Yes. The week system has been adopted by every culture in every continent. Everything is natural, 7 days. Everyone adopted it. Interesting, where did they get it from? They got it from the Jewish people. Just like they got the metric system from the Jewish people. And many other things, as Rabbi Yehuda Levi explains in the Kuzari. Not here is the place. But on day number 8, we're on a level of the metaphysical, the supernatural, is the day we perform Brit Milah. So therefore, you, Yoshua, the leader, you're going to lead them to war? Build and manufacture charavot. That's weird. Yes, before you take the sword to spill the blood of the enemy, first spill the blood on yourself, on your own Jewish infants, on the own Jewish adults that do not have a Brit Milah. Only when your nation, Israel, is ready to spill blood of itself, can it go ahead and spill the blood of its enemies, because God says so. And we're willing to show self-sacrifice. We're willing to show Mesirut Nefesh in this matter. The Midrash says, Bil'am the wicked, Bil'am HaRasha, when we're parked in the 39th and 40th years in the Moabite plain area, and Balak, the king of Moab, who's in a state of tremendous fear, anticipating that we're going to come in and bulldozer the Moabites, which we had no reason to do so. We don't want to do it, and we're not allowed to do it. Al Tidgar Bam, the Torah says we're not allowed to do. Be provocative to the Moabites. Yet he thought, and Balak thought, and he hired Bil'am, the sorcerer, the magician, a prophet that the nations were given of the world by God. And the Talmud says that when Bil'am sees in his vision across the Jordan a hilltop of orlot, of foreskin, what's called here Givat Orlot, he sees it in a vision, it's going to happen. He says, I'm not going to be able to successfully curse this nation. The uniqueness of the nation of Israel is a Brit, is a Milah that's in a Brit. And therefore, what we have here, gentlemen, is a wonderful commandment in the beginning of our existence in the land of Israel. And this is really not a novelty. If you want to go back to the root of Brit Milah, where do you study it? Where do you open up in the Chumash? Avraham Avinu. And what is promised as a circumstance of Brit Milah? The land of Israel. The land of Israel, if you open up in Bereshit, in chapter 17, if I'm not mistaken, and you study the commandment of Brit Milah that Avram is obligated to do, you'll see there the promise of the giving to the seed of Avram, the land of Israel. And that's the next point that we're going to lead to. Is it by mere incidence that we're in a state of danger in the Midbar? Is it by mere incident and therefore we can't circumcise? Is it incidental that we don't have this northerly wind to heal our infants after circumcision? Rather, Rav Ariel explains, the land or where we live for 40 years in the Midbar is not a natural place of our habitat. Way not natural. Our water is given to us miraculously. Our food, given to us miraculously. How many times do you have to visit the Florsheim shoe store to buy shoes in the desert? New Balance shoes. How often do you have to buy them? You don't have to change your shoes. How often do you have to get new shirts and new pants? Oh, you get free clothing service. Your clothes doesn't wear out. There's no wear and tear. Interesting. So what did Levi's and did they go out of business those days? Levi's jeans.
Sold it to the goy.
So what?
Sold it to the goy.
He sold it to the goy for 40 years. In any event, all of our existence in the desert is unnatural. 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 Everything's metaphysical. However, in contrast, when we're coming into the land of Israel is our natural place of living. Even those mitzvot that have nothing to do with the land, they were given, as the Sifri says, and Ramban and Sforno and many others bring it, the natural place of all the mitzvot is to be fulfilled where? In the land of Israel. Mezuzah, tefillin, kindness, which have nothing to do directly with the land of Israel. The Sifri, the Midrash Halacha, brings it that they're given to be fulfilled initially, completely in the land of Israel, not anywhere else. Now, we've crossed the Jordan River. It's going to have a universal effect. The nation of Israel living in its own land is going to bring the light of godliness to the world. Not only to ourselves, not only to those living in the land of Canaan, but the world. This is our natural habitat. And in our natural habitat, we will perform all types of mitzvot. Whether they look to you as natural or they look to you as unusual, that the goyim call it weird, that we're injuring our own bodies, even those mitzvot. The land of Israel is the land of the Brit, the land of a divine covenant. The mitzvah of circumcision is a mitzvah of a Brit. This mitzvah, that the goyim may be saying upon us, you're immoral, you're unfatherly, you're mean and cruel to your child. Look what the Midrash says. Remember or remind me, please, the famous pasuk that we read in the Megillah of Esther prior to war. We say it on the Havdalah. Which famous pasuk is taken from Megillat Esther that we recite in the Havdalah?
Last chapter.
La Yehudim and the Jews, there was what? Orah, light. V'simcha, happiness. Sason and Yakar. Remember that pasuk? And the Jews had Simcha, Sason. La Yehudim Aita Orah, or is Torah. Simcha is Yom Tov. Sason, joy, is Milah. The father's going to cut the foreskin of his infant, and it's joy. Shalom. Is this Northwestern Caters? I'd like to order a catered meal. Can I please rent out the hall, your Simcha hall? I want to call all my friends when they come to eat beer, drink beer, eat the best of cakes. Yeah, I'm going to this store to buy a new shirt. Everyone's so happy at a Brit Milah. They rent out a hall, cater a meal, they sing, they dance. Everyone is happy. Any mitzvah that the Jewish people historically have been doing out of joy, they continue to do it even when it's so difficult. In the most weirdest circumstances, in Europe and in other places where we've had difficulties doing the mitzvah, we show tremendous mesirut nefesh. Okay? I met a doctor. He made Aliyah from Russia in the middle of the 90s. He was called the kitchen circumciser. What am I talking about? In the 70s and the 80s, when he was in his primary age as a doctor, Jews secretly, with their infants, came to his house, and inside his kitchen, he would perform literally tens of thousands of circumcisions. He was famous. Tremendous devotion. Tremendous mesirut nefesh. And he did it, and thank God, he made Aliyah in the wave of Aliyah in the 90s. When the communist wall fell, he made Aliyah. And I think he was like head of an association to do britot for adults from Russian Olim, those that couldn't have a milah, whatever. So I met him. It was a very interesting meeting for me to meet such a holy Jew that, if he would be caught by the KGB, you're not working for the KGB, right? Right? If he would be caught by the KGB, do I have to tell you what would happen to him? Finito della commedia, Gamarno. He's gone. He would be a gun, right? Gentlemen, the Jewish people have been doing this circumcision. And now, at the entrance to the land of Israel, what we call the gates of Israel, the gates is the opening, the entrance. Nothing else. The most important thing to be done is Brit Milah. You're going to fight a war? You're going to live a life of Torah mitzvot here in the land of Israel? The first thing is your calling card. Your Tudat Zahut. Your national ID is that I'm part of Am Yisrael and I have a Brit Milah. We can't go on any way other than that. And therefore, here, as we see, Yoshua ben Nun performs this great Milah through many colleagues, I'm sure. As we said before, he's probably honoring many others to do this. Any questions, comments? Yes.
So you said we didn't do Brit Milah in the desert for 40 years because he didn't know where we were going to move.
And we didn't have the healing wind. Those two reasons.
There was a healing wind those 3 days?
No. Now we're in Israel. Which 3 days?
3 days before,
No. We just crossed the Jordan.
Right.
We just crossed the Jordan. We're in the western side of the land of Israel, which is considered the most holy side. Even when we're on the east side of the Jordan, that'll be Trans-Jordan for the Jewish people. But the most holy side of the land of Israel is now the west side. We crossed. The first thing we do, we're commanded by God to Yoshua to perform a massive milah, circumcision.
So there is that healing wind.
It could be the healing wind right now. It could be, yeah, it could be.
Because we're talking about, you're saying didn't do it for 40
Yeah, but I want to explain from the essence, the natural place for Brit Milah is in Eretz Yisrael. That's what I tried to give an inner explanation. Even though we had reasons why we didn't perform it, from the essence of the Jewish people, as it were a nation of the Brit. And Milah is also considered a Brit, a divine contract, that we will be committed to God. We will be devoted to God through this mitzvah. And therefore, it's fair to say that the land of the Brit is the natural place for the mitzvah of circumcision. That's what I wanted to say as a more inner David. Right. Right now, we explained that in our last shiur. Thank you, David. That now, everything that existed for 40 years no longer exists. Moshe Rabbeinu has passed away. The man has stopped to fall. The rolling stone has stopped to give water. We are now going to go in as a nation and bring light to the entire nation. Tov, we have to stop here. We'll continue from this point, gentlemen. Rabbi Aryeh Weiss is giving a shiur on Maharal, Mitzvah Torah, in the web room. Have a great day today. Learn a lot of Torah. Hebrew, this Shabbat is an in Shabbat like the next Shabbat. Please make plans to be here.